Good morning, everyone. Isle of Wight Society for the Blind. Society news for Friday, October 19th, 2018. This is Barry reading and
Den. Good morning.
Tuesday, the Ryde Swimming Group are meeting this Tuesday, 23rd October, in Ryde at the waterside pool. The pool is closed to the public whilst the group swims. There are male and female volunteers to help you get in and out of the pool, as well as lifeguards to ensure your safety. To join the swimming group, please call the Society first to notify us of your swimming ability.
Wednesday. The weekly coffee morning will be held at Millbrook House this Wednesday, the 24th of October, between 10 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. The coffee mornings are not just for blind and partially sighted people. Anybody can come along and have a cup of tea or coffee as well as a piece of cake. We will also be holding our weekly low vision drop-in event from 10 a.m. till 12 noon to allow you to view and try the low vision equipment we have at the Society without the need for an appointment.
And Thursday, low vision days and volunteer recruitment come to Dress for Less. On the Thursday, 25th October, Sight for Wight will have a display in the Dress for Less boutique. We aim to be there between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. with a selection of low vision aids and literature. We look forward to welcoming members and prospective new volunteers who may find the shop more accessible than Millbrook House. The Thursday social group are meeting on Thursday the 25th of October at Millbrook House. The group meets from 10:30 a.m. till 2 p.m. You can have a chat and knit if you wish. Then later in the afternoon, volunteers come in and read to the group from different topics.
Other news. Island Con. Sight for Wight will be attending Island Con at Cowes Enterprise College on Saturday the 20th and Sunday the 21st of October, where we will not only be demonstrating some of our low vision equipment and simulated specs, but we'd also have a variety of Doctor Who officially licensed props, including Cyberman helmets and a full-size Dalek to have your photo taken with. We look forward to seeing you.
And the short story writing competition. Are you a budding author? This is your chance to have your story published and read by a celebrity. This year's short story writing competition theme is The Magic of Christmas. Entry forms available from Waterstones in Newport, Dress for Less in Newport, Millbrook House in Newport. For more information, please contact Chris Kane on 52205. Visit our website www.iwsb.org.uk.
The Fellowship for the Visually Impaired will meet on Saturday the 27th of October at Bethany Evangelical Church, Union Street, Newport at 3 p.m. The speaker this month will be Mr. Maurice Ferrall. There will be hymns, a quiz, story reading and a short Christian message. Hymn books and scripture are in large print and braille. A collection is taken from which donations are made to Torch Trust for the Blind. For further details, please contact Mrs. Jackie Moore on 520797.
And Fashion Focus Group. This is an article submitted by Masters Research student Faye from the University of Portsmouth. Hello, my name is Faye. I am writing a paper on disability and clothing, analysing the issues that occur when choosing clothes and wearing them. This will then become a project focused on visual impairment, looking at possible issues and plausible solutions. My reason for choosing this subject is my mum, who suffered with MS. By the end of her life, she was bedbound. She still wanted to be glamorous, but different complications made that difficult. So this project is close to my heart. To begin with, I am trying to create a focus group based on the Isle of Wight to discuss fashion and clothing. It will be an informal discussion over coffee and cake, with hopefully lots of laughter. If you're nervous about coming along, please feel free to bring a friend or family member, as I am aiming to create a very relaxed atmosphere. Thanks for your time, and I hope to meet some of you at the focus group. Our trustee, Ruth Hollingshead, is Faye's point of contact at site for Wight. If you would like to register an interest in taking part in Faye's fashion and clothing focus group, please contact the Society on 522-205 or email members@iwsb.org.uk. They will then pass your details on to Ruth.
Retinitis pigmentosa. Representatives from the local Retinitis pigmentosa group will be joining us for our coffee morning on Wednesday the 31st of October. The coffee morning runs from 10 a.m. till 11:30 a.m. and Colin MacArthur from the RP group will be giving a short talk about the group, what they do and how to contact them at 11 a.m. We hope you will be able to join us.
And now I have scaffolding news. Please find below a list of known footway obstructions for works including scaffolding or hoarding. We are unable to include end dates as many are extended on a week-by-week basis. Also included are tables and chairs permits that have been issued in the past week.
Bay and Ventnor area. There is currently scaffolding at Premier Inn 1-9 Esplanade, Sandown, 11A and 11B St John's Road, Sandown, the Toymaster 103 High Street, Sandown, scaffold up in Albion Road, Sandown Library 119 High Street, Sandown, 1 Melville Street, Sandown, 117 High Street, Sandown, Old Comical Inn, St John's Road, Sandown, the corner of Trinity Road and Madeira Road, Ventnor, Boniface Road and Inter Trinity Road, Ventnor, 7A Spring Hill, Ventnor, Hursts, 4 High Street, Ventnor. There is currently a cherry picker at Martin and Nicky Hairdressing, 73 Regent Street, Shanklin. There are currently hoardings at Premier Inn 1-9 Esplanade, Sandown, and the junction of St Boniface Road, Arthur's Hill, Shanklin. There are currently skips at 32 Foreland Road, Bembridge.
In the Cowes area, there is currently scaffolding at 93 High Street, Cowes, behind the hoarding, Cowes Library, Beckford Road, Cowes, also up in West Hill Road. There are currently hoardings as 93 High Street, Cowes. There are currently skips at Ruby Cottage, Fellows Road, Cowes, 22 Woodvale Road, Gurnard. New skips are due at 13 Oakfield Road, East Cowes, from the 29th of October.
The Newport area. There is currently scaffolding at Dewson's, Trafalgar Road, Newport, Santander 26 St James's Street, Newport, scaffold also up around the corner in Pyle Street, Key Cottage 12 Key Street, Newport, 20 St Thomas Square, Newport, 34 Albert Street, Newport, 50 New Street, Newport, Hurst's Chain Lane, Newport, 61A Pyle Street, Newport, 75 St James's Street, Newport, NatWest Bank 107 St James's Street, Newport, the Castle Inn 134 High Street, Newport, 228 Carisbrook Road, Newport. New scaffolding is due up at 10 St James's Street, Newport from the 29th of October and 2 Bedford Road, Newport from the 5th of November. There are currently skips at 38 Victoria Road, Newport and 65 Medina Avenue, Newport.
And in the Ryde area, there is currently scaffolding at My Dentist, 10 to 11 Cross Street, Ryde, Boots, 170 High Street, Ryde, Hills Court, High Street and Newport Street, Ryde, 47 George Street, Ryde, 12A High Street, Ryde, 91 High Street, Ryde, Ivy Holm, Upper Green Road, St Helens. There are currently skips at 27 Daniel Street, Ryde.
The West Wight area. There is currently scaffolding at Duo, 86 Avenue Road, Freshwater, and the Barn, Main Road, Thorley. This week's In Touch. Novartis appeal Shane Warne. In Touch. Pharmaceutical company Novartis is to appeal against a recent court ruling about the use of the drug Avastin to treat wet age macular-related degeneration. Show more. A new twist in the ongoing tale of two treatments. Lucentis and Avastin have both been found to be effective in treating wet age-related macular degeneration, which costs the sight of tens of thousands of people each year. Avastin is vastly cheaper than Lucentis, but is not licensed for use in the eye. The High Court has found against drug companies which brought a legal action to prevent NHS clinical commissioning groups from using the cheaper drug Avastin in people's eyes, and now there will be an appeal. We talked to David Hambleton of South Tyneside Clinical Commissioning Group, who says the law is clear and they will continue to use the cheaper alternative. We ask a manufacturer of high-end electronic braille equipment what the advent of the considerably cheaper Orbit 20 reader will mean for established brands. And we hear from Red Zell on why Shane Warne put him off his breakfast. Presented by Peter Wight and produced by Kevin Core.
And now we have two headlines. Publicans need legal protection, and drink and drugs fuel assault. Publicans need legal protection. Campaigners have warned continuing pub closures will erode the island's community and called for the law governing pub companies to be rewritten. Following the closure of the Pier View Cows and New Inn Shalfleet, and threats to the King's Head, Yarmouth, and the Castle Newport, the Fair Pint campaign branded pub companies cartels that exploited tenants by forcing them to buy beer at sky-high prices. CAMRA, CMRA, said only a suicidal billionaire would take on the lease of an enterprise in this establishment. Cowes publican and Fair Pint spokesperson Olivia Tyler said, "The campaign is sadly unsurprised by the latest pub closure. We have seen systematic bullying and scaremongering of tenants by these companies for years and fought hard for legislation to prevent further abuse. These pubs are not just businesses but family homes. What's happening in the Thai pub industry is not just an erosion of our community spaces and historic buildings, but an attack on family life, putting children at risk of homelessness and stretching council services even further." Stalwart campaigner Dave Mountford, who was made bankrupt after battling with Punch Taverns, now runs a successful freehold Derbyshire pub. He said tenants were misinformed when they signed leases and accused pub companies of abusing the pub's code, which is supposed to ensure they are no worse off than freehold publicans. MP Bob Seeley has met Treasury Secretary Liz Truss and pledged to raise the issue during a budget debate in the Commons. He said, "Pubs are being pushed to closure or the brink of bankruptcy, and it's not acceptable. They have had a bad deal at the hand of unscrupulous chains with ethically questionable business models. Our pubs are important to tourism and their communities."
Pub firm defends business model. Enterprise Inns has defended its business practices after campaigners slammed the company as bullying and exploitative. The company said it was true tenants paid more for their beer, but they also paid less rent than they would on the open market, and had the option of severing their tie at rent reviews, typically held every 5 years. Tenants were not forced to sign leases or agree terms against their will. Essentially, they knew what they were getting into, it said. The managing director at EI Publication Partnership, Nick Light, said, "We know running a pub is demanding and can sometimes result in a publican choosing to leave before the end of their agreement. In these cases, we work extremely closely with our publicans to reach a mutually acceptable solution, which is right for both parties and allows them to exit the pub. In other cases, we provide additional business support or invest in the venue to improve the offer and create new jobs. Any rent levels and discounts on beer are mutually agreed before they take on the business, giving them full visibility prior to occupation to allow them to prepare their business plans. Depending on the type of agreement, there may be a cyclical rent review, but this is again agreed through mutual negotiation, or, if necessary, independently. We do not and cannot impose a rent increase." When asked about pub closures on the island, the company said there were a number of market forces at play, including trading lulls and competition. However, even if the pub was not making enough money, the company said tenants could not breach the terms of their lease by walking away. Mr. Light said, "As the UK's largest pub company, we are dedicated and passionate about providing quality local pubs at the heart of their communities, and the Isle of Wight is no different. Over the last 3 years, we have invested $750,000 into our sites on the island, and we'd like to reassure local pub goers we remain committed to running great pubs on the Isle of Wight."
And Losing Money on Every Pint by Emily Pearce. Another island pub has closed its doors after the landlady said she simply could not afford to keep it open. The King Lud is one of Ryde's best known pubs for live music and events, including Lud Fest, March of the Mods and the Isle of Wight Gin Festival. It regularly holds fundraisers for island charities, but Susie Reed, whose husband's name is on the lease, revealed it had been losing money for several years. She said the company that owned the pub, Enterprise Inns, EI, charged such extortionate prices for beer, the business lost money on every pint poured. "My husband and I have put our own money into keeping it afloat. We didn't want our staff to lose their jobs," said Susie, 41, who has been running the Esplanade pub since 2009. "We have done everything we possibly can to keep the pub going. We've worked other jobs, but it's been a losing battle. A lot of people love this pub, but it doesn't matter how popular you are. If you're losing money on every pint, you're doomed." Susie locked the doors on Sunday after telling staff the bad news and donated the bulk of the contents to Aspire Ride. She waited until beers and buses had finished to avoid casting a shadow over an event she said it had done so much to support Isle of Wight pubs. The King Lud is the latest pub to fall victim to the tied tenancy model of ownership, which has been heavily criticised by campaigners. Susie said appeals to Enterprise for help fell on deaf ears, and the company had now threatened to sue her for breach of contract. "We wanted to give the lease to someone else, but they said we would have to pay them £6,000, which we don't have," said Susie. "We don't have any money if they do sue us, so bring it on, I suppose." A spokesperson for EI Publican Partnership said, "We have been in regular contact with the publican at the King Lud and can confirm the site is currently closed due to the publican's decision to cease trading. We would like to reassure the local community that we plan to reopen the site as soon as possible." Susie said fighting to save the pub had taken an irreparable toll on her husband and 4 children. "This has brought my husband to his knees," she said. "We have worked so hard, but we don't have anything left to keep putting into the pub. It's not a decision to close the pub. We don't have any choice. So we are going to walk away. It's devastating. Even though we have lost everything, I'm still so proud of what we have achieved at the Lud. I hope people will remember our time here with love and know we tried our best. We really did.
Drink and drugs fuelled assault. Rampaging Joe Appleyard beat a man and threatened to stab him, rammed his car into another vehicle, then climbed onto the roof of a nearby building and started smashing slates on the ground below. His victim was so scared he leapt out of a first-floor window to escape the attack, which happened at a Shanklin address in August, the Isle of Wight Crown Court heard last Friday. The victim managed to flee to his parents' house, where his father said he would drive him to hospital, said Tony Bailey, prosecuting. It was then Appleyard showed up in his victim's car, having stolen his keys, and rammed the pair in their vehicle, said Mr. Bailey. The court heard there was bad blood between the two men. The victim had been lured to the Shanklin flat, where a woman and 14-year-old girl were also present. The trio wanted the victim to apologise for calling the woman a tramp earlier that day. He was invited in by the girl, then punched by Appleyard, said Mr. Bailey. He thought he was going to die after Appleyard produced a knife and declared, "I am going to stab you up," he added. The 14-year-old went through the victim's pockets, taking his bank cards and car keys, before he ran upstairs and jumped out of the window. Later that evening, at a party at a Shanklin guest house, Appleyard became angry after the owners complained about the noise and asked him to leave. High on cocaine and alcohol, the court heard he threw a bench and smashed a window, then climbed onto the roof of a nearby building and threw slates to the ground, causing £8,000 worth of damage. Appleyard, 31, of Slade Road, Ryde, who works in the building trade, admitted one charge of assault, occasioning actual bodily harm, one charge of theft, one offence of aggravated vehicle taking, and 2 offences of damaging property. Defending Russell Payne said his client was an excellent father and committed family man, but had allowed himself to go back to his old ways because of cocaine and alcohol. Appleyard was jailed for 22 months.
And tourism officer admits £33,000 fraud and theft. The former finance officer of the island's tourism body, Visit Isle of Wight, appeared in court on Tuesday charged with fraud and theft against the company, totalling £33,874. Joanne Thornton, 55, formerly of Heath Lane, Freshwater, who has since moved to Sheffield, pleaded guilty on both counts at the Isle of Wight Magistrates' Court and said she would repay the money. She is the wife of David Thornton, who was the chief executive at Visit Isle of Wight from October 2012 until his resignation in December last year. Mrs. Thornton admitted committing fraud by abuse of position to the sum of £18,961 by dishonestly abusing her position as finance officer to make a gain by transferring £18,961 from the company account between April 2013 and March 2018. She also admitted theft by an employee between April 2016 and April 2018, when she was said to have stolen cash to the value of £14,913. Oscar Vincent, prosecuting, said it was a substantial amount of money, taken over a lengthy period of time and clearly a breach of trust. Barry Arnett, for Thornton, said she was planning to repay the money. Arrangements are being made, hopefully, that monies can be available on the day of sentencing, which will involve cashing in her pension pot, he said. The court heard that Thornton had no previous convictions. The case was adjourned for sentencing at the Isle of Wight Crown Court on November the 16th. Thornton was warned that sentencing options included custody of up to 4 years. Visiting Isle of Wight's managing director, Will Miles, said in a statement, "I can confirm that following an internal audit earlier this year, some financial irregularities came to light, which were referred to the police. This resulted in a police investigation and a file was sent to the Crown Prosecution Service. I would like to assure Wight BID levy payers that their BID contributions were unaffected, and this money has been used in full to deliver the agreed Wight BID plan. The team at Visit Isle of Wight is now working hard on preparing exciting marketing campaigns and other BID initiatives for the 2019 season.
Councillor, I wasn't napping during meeting. An Isle of Wight councillor has denied he was shopping and sleeping during a meeting about the future of the island's fire service. Cabinet Member for Infrastructure and Transport, Councillor Ian Ward, was pictured during last week's scrutiny meeting with his eyes closed and at another point scrolling through a shopping list of trousers. However, Councillor Ward has denied claims he was not paying attention. He said, "The scrutiny meeting I went to, I had nothing on the agenda, so in reality I did not need to be there. But, like most of the Cabinet, I went. During the 3-hour meeting, I tried to use my time productively." Councillor Ward said he worked off his phone, as did most other councillors. "I get all my emails to my phone," he said. "I came across an email from a retailer and I spent a few minutes going through it. I was not shopping." Councillor Ward also said the photo of him sleeping was just badly timed. "I was not sleeping at all. I have been in since 9 a.m, so I may have looked tired, but that's understandable."
And fire crew changes agreed. Firefighters walked out of an Isle of Wight Council Cabinet meeting after members approved controversial plans to reshape the island's fire service. Last Thursday, after just 15 minutes discussion, the Cabinet unanimously approved plans to overhaul shift patterns. The Cabinet member for the Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service, Councillor Tig Outlaw, said the changes would match resources with demand and increase coverage at peak times, with more firefighters on duty during the evenings and at weekends. But the Fire Brigades Union, FBU, warned reducing the number of firefighters at night will put lives at risk and criticised crew reductions from 5 to 4. The Cabinet heard 4-person crews were common practice across the country. If only one fire engine is immediately available at night, assurances have been made it will be crewed by 5 firefighters. More than 20 fire service personnel attended the meeting, with many shaking their heads during the discussion. When the decision to approve the changes was announced, they all walked out. Speaking after the meeting, several firefighters said they feared for their colleagues on temporary contracts, who may now lose their jobs. Under the changes, the number of whole-time firefighters could be reduced from 58 to 50, although the Council insists there will be no redundancies. Scrutiny Chairman, Councillor Andrew Garrett, said he was disappointed with the minimal debate. At the previous Tuesday's meeting, the Scrutiny Committee discussed the issue for almost 2 hours. Speaking after the meeting, Isle of Wight FBU Brigade Secretary Spence Cave said concerns had not been addressed after the plans were thrown out earlier this year. Councillors who voted against it last time and said there was not enough detail are quite happy to put it through this time. Councillor Outlaw and Howard Watts, Chief Fire Officer, denied Mr Cave's claims the plan put lives at risk. Island Labour Chair Julian Critchley said, "Ultimately this comes down to a matter of trust. Who do you trust to have your best interests at heart when it comes to ensuring we have the fire service we need? The firefighters who oppose these changes on safety grounds, or the Tory council pushing them through to save money?"
Admin error led to ferry delays. Severe delays on Whitelink's Fishbourne to Portsmouth route last Friday were caused by an administrative error, not a technical issue as the company claimed. The annual survey of the St Clair car ferry had not been completed within the permitted time, so the ship had to be withdrawn from service at noon. As the ship was unable to leave the berth at Fishbourne, the 2 other ferries on the route were left stranded in the Solent. It caused a backlog of delays, leaving passengers stuck in Portsmouth traffic for up to 6 hours. One County Press reader said, "There needs to be contingencies for these problems. Having people sat in cars for 5 hours before boarding a ferry is ridiculous. The customer service today has been terrible. No regular updates, no offer of food and drink. All I want to do is to get home after a week at work. Happy Friday." Another said, "Why didn't they let people know, instead of leaving us sitting there in Portsmouth for 6 hours? On Friday, Wight apologised for the delays and said they were caused by a technical issue with the St Clair. A representative from Lloyd's Register surveyed the vessel on Saturday morning in Portsmouth, and the ferry returned to service at 1 p.m. that day. Keith Greenfield, Wight chief executive, said, "We are extremely sorry for the severe disruption caused to our customers on Friday afternoon by this technical issue. We acted swiftly when we realised an error had been made, and checks are now in place to ensure this does not happen again." A Wight source told the County Press, "The issue was entirely preventable. It had been known the certification was expiring for months and had been constantly reported to head office." The source said the certificate expired on October the 5th, which would mean the vessel was in operation without the proper certification for a week. The County Press asked Wight what would have happened if an accident had occurred, whilst without the correct certification, but no answer was given. Both Lloyd's Register and the Maritime Coast Guard Agency referred the questions to Wight.
And Newport Vickers facing redundancy by James Walven. Fears of redundancy have been raised for vicars in the Newport area. All the vicars in Newport, Carisbrooke and the surrounding rural areas have been told they face redundancy and will have to reapply for their jobs if a plan goes forward by Portsmouth Diocese goes ahead. The plan, announced at a public meeting on Monday at All Saints Church Ryde, will see the parish of Carisbrooke split in two, with the main village added to Newport Parish and the rural areas merged with Arreton and Gatcombe to create a new large rural parish surrounding Newport to the west and south. A spokesperson for the diocese said the plans aim to free up people and ease their financial and administrative burdens. As with many organisations, when you make changes to its structure, there are legal implications, he said. For people who are employed by a company, often they are notified they are at risk of redundancy. While the clergy are not employees, their roles are still put at risk when you make changes to a parish structure, and as such, we have as part of the process informed those affected. We hope many of those affected will choose to apply for roles in the new structure. The plan received a mixed response at the meeting, with parishioners concerned about what this meant for the Church of England on the island. The diocese spokesperson said part of the plan was to invest £1.5 million over the next 5 years into the Church of England's ministry in Newport and increase the number of full-time equivalent roles from 2.8 to 5, some clergy and some lay people. The investment will be part of a wider £9.1 million package covering the whole diocese, with the diocese bidding the £4.9 million of that to come from the national church. The meeting was for the launch of a public consultation process that will last many months. An informal consultation lasts until the end of November, when written comments are due in. The formal consultation process starts on December the 7th, when draft proposals will be sent out to interested parties. The Reverend Kevin Arkle of Newport Minster said, another church member, after inquiries, found that much of the new money promised from the diocese actually comes from unfulfilled commitments to other churches on the island. I am told the promised administrator for the West Wight has not been appointed some 2 years after cuts in clergy numbers through natural wastage. If there really is a shortage of money, then transparency is needed. I would be the first to cooperate and seek to help. The actual result is I have joined a trade union.
Pride's help for teachers. A specialist LGBT plus equality trainer will help Isle of Wight teachers ensure their classrooms are inclusive to all children. Dr. Ellie Barnes has been invited to the island by the Isle of Wight Pride team to deliver a training session for educational professionals. Isle of Wight Pride's Matt Bundy said, "We have made it clear from the outset we do not see Pride as a one-day party on a beach. Pride has managed to win hearts and minds on our gorgeous island, and we want to ensure this momentum continues throughout the year. We were aware there was a hunger for innovative and engaging training around LGBT plus issues for educational professionals, and so we are delighted we have managed to encourage Dr. Barnes to come to the island. This is an incredible opportunity for those who want to take part." An experienced teacher and author, her book, How to Transform Your School into an LGBT plus friendly place, a practical guide for nursery, primary and secondary teachers, was a bestseller. Dr. Barnes set up her own school as a diversity training centre, offering LGBT plus training to teachers nationally. In 2001, she was voted number 1 in the Independent on Sunday's Pink List 2011 for her commitment to LGBT in education. The following year, she was highly recommended by the TES in the Teacher of the Year category. This year, she was voted DIVA Activist of the Year. Her training session, supported by the Isle of Wight Council, will be held on Wednesday, November the 14th. A council spokesperson said, "Inclusion within school is a vital part of making pupils feel they belong. This one-day interactive course is designed to give delegates a fun and relaxed introduction to LGBT plus inclusion. We really hope island educationalists are keen to take up this opportunity. Often educational staff are the first to be confided in when it comes to people disclosing their sexuality or gender identity, and how someone reacts can have a significant impact on people's lives. It can also be daunting for staff who have never explored or had training around these sensitive subjects."
Parents of 2 St Catherine's school students will be running to raise money for a special school. Nick and Michaela Wight, parents of Nathan and Daniel, are set to pound the streets of Portsmouth in the Great South Run on Sunday to support the Ventnor charity. The duo had planned to run the race last year, but after Michaela was diagnosed with a condition that affects her joints, their places were deferred. They chose to support the school as it has made such a positive difference to their sons. Michaela said, "Daniel has blossomed so much at St Catherine's. With their support and understanding, he has become the Daniel we remember and love, and I cannot thank them enough for helping him to find his way again. We are not scared for his future anymore. We know finally his needs are being met." This September, our younger son, Nathan, also started at the school, and once again they are providing something no mainstream school could. The school is a magical place. Imagine a scaled-down version of Hogwarts, full of love, laughter and music. They deserve every penny that is donated to them, as they help so many children with special needs and disabilities. To sponsor Nick and Michaela, go to justgiving.com/fundraising/Nick and Michaela. Other island runners taking part in the Great South Run include Victoria Coles, who was diagnosed with breast cancer, which also caused her back to break. Mark Grimes, who is running for the second time after battling an invasive brain tumour, and Holly Irwin, a nurse who is running with 15 of her patients for the Pituitary Foundation.
4 in hospital after taking drugs. 4 people were hospitalised in a serious condition after taking unprescribed drugs, and 2 were admitted to intensive care. They were taken to the emergency department on Tuesday night after taking medication believed to contain diazepam and tramadol. It prompted a warning from the IWNHS Trust about the danger of taking medicine that has not been prescribed. Medical Director Alistair Flowerdew said, "We would strongly urge islanders not to take medication from unknown sources and only take medicine that has been prescribed to them. Taking medication that is unknown and unprescribed can cause serious health concerns, as we have seen. This action by a few individuals has placed additional pressures on our services. Ensuring our patients receive safe care is our absolute priority, and for this reason a number of our patients may need to be transferred to the mainland because our intensive care unit is full. Anyone offered drugs from an unknown source should report this to the police on 101 immediately. Anyone concerned about substance misuse can find out more at the Talk to Frank website at www.talktofrank.com or by telephoning their helpline on 0300 123 6600. Anyone holding unwanted or surplus drugs should return them to their local pharmacy."
An East Cowes man was so drunk when police turned up at his house he was not able to stand without staggering, a court heard. Stacey Williams, 44, of Albert Way, admitted assaulting his wife on August the 25th when he appeared before Isle of Wight magistrates on Monday. The court heard that the victim told officers he had assaulted her, cutting the right side of her head, but she did not wish to make a statement. Williams told police he had been drinking since the previous evening. He said both he and his wife needed counselling, and he felt bad for what he had done. Representing Williams, Oscar Vincent said the couple had been married for 10 years and had a normal marriage. His wife agreed the pair had a strong relationship, Mr. Vincent said. He added, she admitted to me she was also in drink. When she was sober, she was not able to say for sure how the injury occurred. He expressed genuine remorse for his actions. He and his wife have avoided drink since that evening. Williams was sentenced to a 12-month community order and fined £105 with £85 costs and £85 surcharge.
That's it from this morning. Thank you and goodbye from Den.
And from me, Barry, we hope you have a very nice weekend and that the sunshine continues.
It's good morning from Leicester.
And good morning from Sue.
We start with the readers' letters today, and the first letter, Harbour Plans Delayed by Interventions, and it's from Malcolm P. Thorpe, Bembridge Harbour Authority. It's good to see both Mr. Gully and also Mrs. Gully had letters printed in the county press 12/10/18. However, Mr. Gully has a very bad habit of both misquoting and or distorting the truth. Mr. Gully is an ex-estate agent, now property developer, is fully aware the lawful development certificate application for the houseboats is not applicable for the installation of new sewage treatment plant. And as he knows, we have a planning application ready to be submitted which includes the installation of individual sewage treatment plants free of charge by the harbour into existing houseboats which currently pump raw sewage into the harbour. So far, due to unwarranted intervention by Bembridge Harbour Trust, we have been working with the Isle of Wight Council to secure this approval since April 2015. Mr. Gully is also fully aware of our regeneration planning application with the benefit of 2 resolutions to grant planning consent from the Isle of Wight Council, includes a legal obligation for further investment of £950,000 into harbour facilities on top of the £1 million plus already that has been invested since 2011. The proposed planning agreement sets out the format whereby this new investment is to be completed before the houses are built, and it is the sale of these houses which will provide the capital needed to pay for the improvements. Again, despite BHT, we have been working with the Isle of Wight Council to secure this approval since February 2013. BHT was set up in 2007 to buy the harbour. In 2011, when it became available, it failed by bidding only 25% of its commercial value. Since then, its sole purpose has been to criticise and undermine the harbour management with a continual plea it is a charitable organisation duty-bound to watch over the harbour. No such duty, legal, moral or commercial, exists at all, other than in the 6 trustees' minds, yet they all continue to revote themselves back into office every year and prevent the harbour's rejuvenation. It is now time the Charities Commission reviewed BHT's charitable status and the undeserved associated tax benefits it continues to claim.
This letter's from Leslie Hampshire from Shanklin. There is a place for Gothic Hotel, but it's not here. It's a pity that Dino and Arena Joachim, who run the Nightingale Hotel in Shanklin, feel the need to be defiant about the mixed reaction to their redecorated property in Shanklin. Surely they must have anticipated what a controversial and provocative situation this was going to be. Of course, they have every right to express themselves, attract niche market young customers and build up their business. The artwork is interesting and has certainly attracted plenty of publicity. Given the right location, this couple could go far, and good luck to them, but sadly, a conservation area is not the right place for their particular skills. As entrepreneurial types, they should have done their homework first and checked out the details of a designated conservation area, namely to protect the character of the area, the familiar and cherished local scene, sustaining the sense of distinction which is so important to the island's towns, villages and countryside. Keats Green, where the hotel is situated, has a definitely Victorian feel about it, genteel and historic. So, sorry guys, your newly decorated frontage doesn't fit the bill. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. The Isle of Wight Council Planning Department is not new to controversy, and we'll be watching for their take on this one.
And this letter from Brian Greening in Newport. Remember Skipper Owsley. We have recently discovered the grave of the headmaster of our old school, the famous Skipper Owsley, the man who is credited with forming the traditions and respect that all ex-pupils recall. The grave needs a little TLC, and even if we use the small amount we have in our account, we shall still be looking for around £500 to restore it. This would include repairing stonework, cleaning the surrounds, and laying new turf. If any ex-pupils have any ideas as to how we might raise all or part of this sum, please contact me on 528438. All the graves are part of our heritage and each has a story to tell. It would be a fitting tribute to our old school if this work could be carried out.
From J. Petford Ventnor. I want tax back. Every year we pay council tax while services have been cut. I don't know what I'm being charged for. We are handing over money for nothing. I would like my money returned until services are reinstated. Perhaps we should all refuse to pay it. Does anybody else agree? Oh, council tax does pay for council pensions. Yes, a third of council tax goes into the council's pension pot. Why?
And this letter from Richard and Rosie Barrett, who live in Bembridge. Humour of St Mary's staff broke the tension. On Thursday last week, I attended St Mary's Hospital Eye Clinic with my wife for a lengthy eye investigation, where she was diagnosed with glaucoma. This obviously was a very tense and worrying time. On completion of this, we attended the pharmacy with a prescription for eye drops, where the pharmacist carefully explained the application procedure. He also informed her that there was a side effect that he must mention. He said it was about the eyelashes. We took this to be that the eyelashes might stick together or something similar. No, he said, looking at my wife with a beaming smile. It will make your eyelashes look even more beautiful. All tensions immediately vanished and much laughter ensued, making this visit to St Mary's a very pleasant and caring experience. Our thanks to them all at St Mary's.
From Mrs Pearl Adams in Bryston, my white knight. Could I please, through the county press, express my sincere thanks to David Wight, driving a white car, for coming to an OAP's assistance on Thursday, October the 11th, about 4 p.m. on the road opposite Quor Abbey. He really was a good Samaritan.
And this is from Richard Ferraro in Ventnor. Light rail is a real answer. I see, County Press 280918. Thankfully, there is little appetite on the part of mainland authorities for Prolinks road tunnels, especially with a price tag of minimum £3 billion, all of which must be committed before construction starts and all spent before traffic rolls. From my previous correspondence, you will know my main objections to the proposals are that, first, in the 21st century, it is absurd to invest vast amounts of money into car-based transport. UK government policy and worldwide experience, recently New Zealand, point to the creation of low-energy, affordable light rail systems. Secondly, for sure, the Isle of Wight's existing road system does not have the capacity to accommodate the amount of extra traffic that Prolink seeks to impose. Subject to further work, therefore broad brush, it should cost no more than £1 billion to reconstruct most of the Isle of Wight's former and existing railway network as a new light rail infrastructure. That figure assumes 50 miles of track constructed at an overall cost of £20 million per mile or 40 miles at £25 million per mile, etc. This expenditure could be phased, with construction in sections spread over 10 to 15 years. Now, for an extra £0.5 billion, which is optional, it should be possible to construct a light rail tunnel between Ryde and Portsmouth Harbour, linking the island's network directly to national rail and bus networks. Also, this extra sum could be most likely to cover the cost of sorting out several bottlenecks on the island's road system. For example, the construction of a roundabout at the T-junction at Downend Road near Arreton Barnes, and the construction of a slip lane at the traffic lights at the Hare and Hounds. The future of the Isle of Wight is best served by a new light rail network. Crowd-funded fees to pay ARUP engineers would be better spent on a feasibility study for light rail.
This is a warning from the Citizens Advice Consumer Helpline. Looking for love or sensing a scam? Dating online is a hugely popular way to meet somebody new, whether it is on a dating site or through social media. However, be very careful. Criminals are increasingly using these methods to commit fraud, and anyone can become a victim. How it happens. Most accounts on dating websites are genuine people looking for romance, but fraudsters may try to contact you by creating fake profiles, getting in touch, and building what feels like a loving relationship. Once a fraudster using a fake dating profile is confident they've won your trust, they will tell you about a problem they're experiencing and ask you to help out by sending money. They may have arranged to visit you, but need money to pay for the flight or visa. Alternatively, they may prey on your sympathies, telling you a family member is ill and they need money for medical treatment. Once you send them money, the fraudsters will keep coming back and invent new reasons for you to send them more. Remember to date online safely. Never reveal personal or financial details to anyone you haven't met. Never respond to requests to send money to anyone you haven't met. And never get yourself into debt to send money to somebody you haven't met.
And that's the end of the letters for this week. We move on to looking back. And first of all, we start 100 years ago on October the 19th, 1918. President Wilson of the USA answered the German proposal for an armistice. He said, "The nations associated against Germany cannot be expected to agree to a cessation of arms while acts of inhumanity, spoliation and desolation are being continued." And the Isle of Wight branch of the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children celebrated a successful year. Chairman of the branch, the Reverend T. Busher, spoke of the importance of the work being done by the Society in conserving the child life of the nation. During the war, the lives of 56,000 children had been helped nationally.
75 years ago, October the 23rd, 1943. Tom Smitch of Ryde, whose clever and amusing cartoons appeared regularly in the county press, was serving in an airborne division in the Middle East. He wrote, "Despite the heat, dust and flies, I've managed to accumulate a number of sketches. Art must go on if life may be short." A Ryde sergeant was awarded an MBE, military division, for services to the Special Intelligence Branch. George Albert Corney joined the Scots Guards and became a sergeant before he was 21. He was awarded for his work in Cairo.
And 50 years ago, October the 12th, 1968, Admiral of the Fleet Earl Mountbatten of Burma, Governor of the Isle of Wight, visited the island for some royal duties. He spent most of his time in the Ryde area, opening a new science building at Ryde School, joining a Mothers' Union rally at the town hall, and officially opening Ryde's first Abbeyfield house. And Hover Travel of Ryde, enterprising pioneer of hovercraft passenger transport, reached a new landmark when it carried its 1,000,000th passenger. The occasion was marked by a presentation ceremony at the Esplanade Terminal. The traveller was Mrs. Helen Crowder of Buckingham Close, Ryde. She received a gold ticket for life. Unlimited journeys forever.
25 years ago, October the 15th, 1993. A £500,000 boost was given to the campaign to attract visitors to the island. The extra money, pledged by the 3 island ferry operators, local authorities and businesses within the tourist industry, was set to fund additional high-profile advertising in a bid to sell the island. 2 bakers narrowly escaped death when a stolen high-powered car smashed into Freshwater Bakery in the early hours of the morning, causing £10,000 worth of damage. The driver and passenger escaped unhurt as the car caught fire after hitting the bakery in School Green Road.
And finally, 10 years ago, October the 17th, 2008, a war of words broke out over claims the school's reorganisation could cost taxpayers £2.4 million more a year. The Isle of Wight Council hit back at the Standards Not Tears chairman, who said closing small schools would free up less than 10 pence per child per day. He claimed this, plus losing the small schools grant, would spell a loss, and said they haven't done their basic maths. And a mobile CCTV camera was just one measure implemented at Cowes Park and Ryde Base because of regular vandalism. That should be Park and Ryde Base. Cowes Safer Neighbourhood police officers drew up a plan to reduce criminal activity at the site, while fencing and gate repairs plus new warning signs were added to the to-do list.
And we now move on to the Wight memories. Beginnings of Lighthouse. There's a picture of the Needles Lighthouse. This rare photograph of the Needles Lighthouse under construction in 1859 was shared with the county press. The photograph shows a temporary pier that was erected for use during the construction. Bryston resident Jeremy Dolby shared the image with the county press and said he had it for many years as a vintage stereograph. The lighthouse was completed in 1859 and built from granite blocks, standing at 33.25 metres high. The lighthouse was designed by James Walker for Trinity House. Still in use today, the lighthouse was automated in 1994 and can be seen from 17 nautical miles away. It replaced an earlier lighthouse that was once situated on the cliff, which was first used in 1786. The cliff-top lighthouse suffered with fog and sea mist and was often obscured from view because it was so high above sea level at 144 metres. The Needles Lighthouse was one of the last 3 remaining staffed lighthouses in England and Wales. Before automation, it was staffed by a crew of 3, operating a 24-hour watch, serving 1 month on and 1 month off. The lighthouse keepers lived in rudimentary conditions across 3 floors below the light. In 1987, a helipad was added to the top of the lighthouse, and on December the 8th, 1994, the last keepers left as the lighthouse became fully automated. In 2010, an underpinning project was carried out to stop the lighthouse falling into the sea.
And move on to my view, there are 2 articles. The first columnist is Cat James. Confessions of a Celebrity Collector. When I was a nipper, it was not unusual to see old teddy boys in the street slicking back their hair into a silvery ducktail the way they had for 20 years, a reminder of the days when they'd been vital young man. Similarly, I'm trying to grow my hair into the feather cut of my glorious 70s childhood. It's currently at the stage of early Robin Asquith, star of Bless This House, and more famously, The Confessions of... films. Having Googled Robin Asquith pictures to see if my hair was indeed anything like his trademark shag, I discovered he would be celebrating his 68th birthday in the New Forest, and for a modest sum, fans were invited to join him. A party with the one and only Timothy Lee, cheeky protagonist of the Confessions of... franchise. I'm in. And sensing she'd enjoy the outing, I invited an actress friend to come along. It was an intimate affair, 20 or so of us in a Girl Guide headquarters, Comedy Gold itself, gathered to hear Mr. Asquith showbiz anecdotes. The audience members were surprisingly intense. I discovered many of them collected star encounters like Pokemon. One lady showed me a picture of herself perched on a stool next to Starsky and Hutch actors Paul Michael Glaser and David Soul. Starsky and Hutch? Let that sink in. I mean, they practically defined the 1970s police buddy franchise, and here I was sitting with her just like she had sat with them. Could I feel their vibrations through time and space? Robin threw open the floor to some questions. What was it like to work with Sid James? Asked one fan. Did he ever know Keith Moon? Inquired another. It was as if Robin was being used as a portal to these dead stars, a celestial telephone plugged into Heaven's Exchange. With the replies came an ephemeral connection trying to question to Robin and onwards to Sid, then back again in defined steps of separation. My actress friend revealed she had been in a film with Robin back in 1978. He, of course, remembered her, and they had a good old reminisce. The celebrity chasers in the audience smelt a fresh conquest, and soon her filmography was being examined. Appearances in The Return of the Saint and Crown Court made her a valuable catch, and she was photographed and catalogued like an exhibit. As we ate slices of Robin's birthday cake and he signed some photos, mine cheekily inscribed, "To Cat, thanks for coming," I wondered about what drives us to seek these close encounters. Even Robin Asquith himself, on discovering we'd travelled to his birthday party from the Isle of Wight, threw in a few Jeff Hughes stories for good measure, keen to close the loop. And of course I knew someone who had known the erstwhile Eddie Yates. Proof that it's part of the human condition to hunt and gather and create these endless threads of connectivity.
And this is a view from Jim Gibbons. Unfortunate tale of a cat burglar. When God designed cats, he gave them these gifts: A. Agility. B. Beauty. C. Skill in training humans. D. There is no D. At this point, God was distracted by Mrs. God, asking him to put out the rubbish or something of the sort, and that's all they got. Certainly they have curiosity, which is hardly a gift, unless paired with discretion. And there, cats score null points. So, cats are notorious for getting locked in sheds, trapped under floorboards and the like. The conjunction of cats and trees is a good illustration of this. Cat climbs a few feet up, then realises, unlike squirrels, he's not equipped to go down forwards, and he's not well equipped to go down backwards. What does he do? He rests a bit, then considers his options. Jumping off doesn't appeal. Can't climb down. No future in staying where he is. But he can climb up. To be fair, even us humans have been known to paint ourselves into a corner, haven't I? Well, that's enough horses do for us. Let's get on with the meal. This true story concerns Anita, Betty. The names have been changed to protect the innocent, and Tiddles. Bit of a clue there, but name changed to protect the guilty. Tiddles had trained his servant Anita to allow him laissez-faire with the cat flap during the day, but to lure him back in the evening before locking the flap. She enticed him by standing at the door, shaking a box of Moggy's Delight. You'll have seen the TV ads in which this causes an impetuous cat to burst through walls to get at the stuff. I don't suppose that's good, but the rattle of the box was good enough to reach his ears at whatever distance. And it worked. Within seconds, Moggy would be munching. Except on this one occasion when several shakes of the box produced no cat. Anita gave it 10 minutes and tried again. No Tiddles. While she was standing at the door, her neighbour Betty came dashing to her, out of breath and countenance. Anita was telling her of the lack of cat when Betty blurted out, "I've got a burglar!" Anita stared at her, wondering what to say. Congratulations didn't quite fit the bill, or what you going to do with him? Betty said, "I'd been gardening, doing bits at the front and side, left the door open for a while, but when I went back in, I knew there was somebody inside. Then I heard a vase smashing on the floor, and I locked the door and came round here." They phoned the police and waited, Anita hopefully giving the cat recall signal without result, and Betty saying, "Come inside and lock the door. He could get out and come here." In a surprisingly short while, a police car came round. Yes, it was quite a while ago, you can tell, can't you? And heard the story. "We need some people round the back," was their conclusion, and they whistled up reinforcements. By now, the whole street was taking an interest, and not one, but some police cars, including a dog handler and his van. It must have been a quiet day, came and surrounded the place. Betty gave them her key and they went in. Betty waited outside her front door and Anita continued trying to attract her wandering boy back home. In a while, a policeman came and found Anita and said, "I'm led to believe, ma'am, that you have a cat name of Tiddles," followed by an eyewitness description. "He is the culprit and has gone to ground behind a wardrobe in your neighbour's house. And in the interest of reducing the damage to furniture and policemen, perhaps you could follow me with that box you're holding." I believe he was let off with a suspended sentence. This month's quote, "Touch not the cat, but without a glove." Last month it was André Breton who said you could step out of life when you chose.
And now we move on to what's on the Isle of Wight this week, entertainments, and start with iLeisure, Arts, Music and Comedy at Medina Theatre. And the telephone number for the Medina Theatre is 01983 823 880 and www.medinatheatre.co.uk. And on this Sunday there's Glenn Tilbrook, The Face and Voice of Squeeze, and that's at 7:30 and tickets are £20. On the Monday, Living a Wildlife with Colin Stafford Johnson, and that's on Monday the 22nd of October at 7:30, and tickets for that £18.50 or £16.50. On the 24th, there's a band of Royal Marines, Portsmouth. We don't have a price for that. On the 25th, the Dream Boys. That's Thursday, and it's at 7:30. Tickets from £24.50, and it's for over 18s only. And on Friday, the Billy Joel Songbook by Elio Pace. That's Friday the 26th of October at 7:30, and tickets for that are £22.50. And on the Saturday, it's You Win Again, Bee Gees, and that starts at 7:30pm, and tickets for that are £20.
On Saturday, October the 27th, at the Riverside Centre is a rock and roll special, Rockin' the Joint, supported by Wild Wolfie Smith. It's 7pm till late, and tickets are £9 in advance, £10 on the door. Contact Shirley 527670.
Sounds of Heaven again. If you missed the Sounds of Heaven concert at St Mary's RC Church Ryde, don't worry, it will be repeated in Cowes on Sunday. The Ryde audience was treated to a selection of pieces by Mozart, Handel, Bach, Schubert, and by organist and composer Richard Benger and soprano Annalisa Vaughan, interspersed with readings by Edmund Majenski's, poems. The Cowes concert is at St Thomas RC Church at 7:30pm.
And at the Key Arts Centre, Sunday the 28th of October, that's at 7:30pm, is Rachel McShane and the Cartographers. Rachel McShane is a singer, cellist, fiddle and viola player based in the northeast of England. Her new solo project sees her reworking traditional songs with a brand new band, featuring guitarist Matthew Ord, melodeon player Julian Sutton, and the tickets are £12.50 or £15 on the door.
Double delight at the Apollo Theatre. The Private Ear and Public Eye, two very different one-act plays by Peter Shaffer, sharing the same cast of three actors, make for an entertaining evening of theatre. The first play centres around Bob, an unusual young man who is passionate about art and classical music. His office companion, Ted, comes round to his flat to help him entertain Doreen, a young lady he met at a concert. Ted allegedly has more experience with the affair of sex than Bob and should help to keep the conversation going. And he can cook. By the time Bob realises his mistake, the evening is doomed to failure. And the second play concerns the worries of Charles, a very set-in-his-ways accountant who suspects that his younger wife is being unfaithful to him. The Private Ear and the Public Eye will be staged at the Apollo Theatre, Newport, at 7:30 from tonight, that's Friday, until next Saturday, October the 27th, but not Sunday or Monday. Tickets available from the box office or Apollo website.
Tired of singing on your own in the shower? Then come and join Ryde Chorus. Come and see us perform as the guest choir at the Medina Theatre in a new musical, Keep the Home Fires Burning, featuring songs to commemorate the centenary of World War I. It's on Sunday the 28th of October at 7pm. Tickets are £18 from the Medina Theatre box office.
Have you found any historic items? Have you dug up anything interesting in your garden or found something historic in your house? Newport and Carisbrooke Parish Council is inviting people to go along to Lord Louis Library next Saturday, October the 27th, from 10:30am to 2pm, and bring with them items of local interest to the Newport and Carisbrooke area. Project Officer at the Parish Council, Claire Tillman, said, I once dug up an old ceramic bottle from a historic Newport brewery in my garden. When I moved into my house, we found a pile of old newspaper cuttings from the 1960s. There must have been other people out there who have similar items. The event will also be a chance for people to share oral histories of the area. Funded by the Heritage Lottery Fund, the project is called Newport Living History.
Some dates for your diary here for Shanklin Theatre. Their box office telephone number is 868 000. These dates are November. Friday the 2nd, Counterfeit Quo at 7:30pm. Sunday the 4th, David Starkey, 2:30pm. Tuesday the 6th, Robin Windsor, The Farewell Tour, 7:30pm. Thursday the 8th, The Stylistics at 7:30pm. Friday the 9th, RBL Shanklin Festival of Remembrance, that's the British Legion, of course, 7:30pm. Saturday the 10th, 10cc in concert plus support, 7:30. Monday the 12th, Dr. John Cooper Clarke at 7:30. Thursday the 15th, An Evening with Pete Waterman, and that's at 7:30. Friday the 16th, Lucid, 7:30. Saturday the 17th, One Night of Queen, 7:30. And then the Island Savoyards present A Christmas Carol, and that's Thursday the 22nd, Friday the 23rd, Saturday the 24th, Sunday the 25th, and they're all at 7:30, and matinees on the Saturday and Sunday at 2:30 as well. Wednesday the 28th is an audience with Simon Reeve at 7:30, and Friday the 30th of November, Michael starring Ben, and that's at 7:30.
Bench and plinth to be unveiled. Newport and Carisbrooke Parish Council will celebrate the Armistice Day centenary by unveiling a commemorative bench and information plinth. RBL standard bearers will be in attendance and a wreath laid by Parish Council Chair Councillor Jeff Brodie at the unveiling on Friday, November the 9th. It will be held at the War Memorial at Simeon Gardens at the junction of Carisbrooke Road and Castle Road, Newport. Members of the public are welcome to attend the ceremony, which starts at 2pm.
Isle of Wight Nature Watchdogs Asian Hornets warning. Asian hornets could invade the island, a local charity has warned. Natural Enterprise has warned islanders to be vigilant and report any possible sightings of Asian hornets. The insects have caused massive destruction to honeybees, pollinators and fruit growers across France within the last 10 years. To date, there have been 13 confirmed sightings of the Asian hornet in England, and 6 nests have been destroyed. 9 of the sightings occurred this year, including 2 in Hampshire last month. Natural Enterprise, which hosts the Isle of Wight Local Action Group that aims to stop the spread of invasive, non-native species, is keen to raise awareness about the threat. A spokesperson said, "It is crucial members of the public report any possible sightings so experts can take quick and effective action to eradicate Asian hornets. The sighting can be reported online at www.nonnativespecies.org. Asian hornets have a dark brown or black velvety body, a yellow or orange band on the 4th segment of the abdomen. Their yellow-tipped legs are smaller than the native European hornet."
And this is an article about a school's rat problem tackled, and there's a little photograph of a rat peeping at the camera. Exterminators have been called to Medina House School, where rats are roaming the classrooms. The Isle of Wight Council said it was not an infestation and reassured parents that Newport Special School for 4 to 11-year-olds with special education needs or disabilities, that it was safe. However, one family member said, "They're in the classrooms and the kitchen. It's disgusting. The kids have been moved to the sports hall to keep them away from the rats, but they're everywhere. I think they should close the school while they get it sorted out. However, a council spokesperson said, it is safe to stay open despite an issue with rodents. Affected areas of the school have been closed and measures are being taken to tackle the issue. Parts of the school have been deep cleaned.
Delays in smear tests concerning. Thousands of island women are facing long waits for their smear test results. A mandatory 14-day turnaround time was introduced for cervical screening results in 2010, with providers requiring to meet the target in at least 98% of cases. But a Freedom of Information request to Public Health England has revealed 55% of women screened in the NHS Isle of Wight Clinical Commissioning Group area in the 12 months to July waited longer than 2 weeks for their results. It means 3,730 women who had a smear test did not get their results on time. More than 3 million results were sent out in England over the same period, and almost half of them were late. Leading cancer charities said the figures were concerning and warned long waits could cause increased anxiety at an already stressful time. Only 16 out of the 195 CCGs met the 98% target. Robert Musick, Chief Executive of cervical cancer charity Joe's Trust, said lots of people have approached us through our helpline saying they're waiting 12, 14, 16 weeks for their results. It is creating anxiety, which is not a healthy thing, and our concern is it could put women off attending their appointments. With screening attendance already at a 20-year low, that is worrying. He said it was believed survival rates for women who do develop cervical cancer would be unaffected by the delays, but not certain. Impending changes to the way cervical screenings are carried out, where tests look for the cancer-causing HPV virus straight away rather than for abnormal cells, have been being blamed for the backlog. Mr. Musick said fewer cytologists, the scientists who study the test samples, would be needed, causing staff shortages as they leave for new jobs. He said it was important women were not put off attending appointments. Cervical cancer is one of the few cancers that is preventable, he said. Cervical screenings prevent 75% of cervical cancers and save more than 5,000 lives every year, so please go to your test. An NHS England spokeswoman said HPV screening would identify more women at risk and save more lives. A spokesman for Public Health England said PHE is supporting and advising NHS England in its efforts to ensure women receive their screening results within 14 days.
And this article by Megan Baines, Cowes term time decision. Cowes Enterprise College leaders have decided not to adopt changes for term times, which means parents with children at different schools could face mismatched summer holidays. The Isle of Wight Council approved the changes in March this year, and the new term times will come into effect next September. In addition to shortening the summer break to 5 weeks, the autumn half-term holiday in October will be increased to 2 weeks. However, Cowes Enterprise College head teacher Rachel Kitley said the college would not be adopting the changes. The school is an academy run independently of the council and is not obliged to adopt the new calendar. However, the move could cause a headache for parents as different schools in the area will now have different term times. One parent said on Facebook, "What a pain. Some have already booked holidays for the 2 weeks in October." Another said, "My child has her heart set on Cowes, but it will be a bit of a pain for the next 5 years while the other is still in primary school." Miss Kitley said, "Here at Cowes Enterprise College, we are fully supportive of Councillor Paul Brading, the Council Cabinet Member for Education, and island leaders and their desire to find creative solutions to improving pupil outcomes across the island. At this juncture, however, our governors have decided to wait and see the initial outcomes of this change before deciding on our next steps."
Osborne Myrtle in Princess's Bouquet. Royal bride Princess Eugenie made her entrance at St George's Chapel, Windsor, carrying a piece of the Isle of Wight. Myrtle grown at Osborne House was included in the princess's wedding bouquet last Friday. The tradition of carrying myrtle began when Queen Victoria was given a nosegay containing myrtle by Prince Albert's grandmother during a visit to Gotha in Germany. In the same year, Queen Victoria and Prince Albert bought Osborne House as a family retreat, and a sprig from the posy was planted against the terrace walls. Symbolising love, innocence and fertility, it has been used in royal bouquets ever since, and has been carried by the Duchess of Cambridge, Diana, Princess of Wales and the Queen. In 2017, the lower terrace in the gardens at Osborne opened for the first time to the public. It is here the famous royal myrtle may be admired.
And it's have a lovely day. Goodbye from Leicester.
And goodbye from Sue.
This is the BBC.
This is In Touch, the magazine programme for people like me who are blind or partially sighted. I'm Peter Wight. Thanks for downloading this week's edition. Good evening. Tonight, the battle over which treatments can be used to combat a major eye disease goes on, as drug companies seek to return to court. And how Shane Warne ruined our correspondent's breakfast.
The best sledge is always those little clever ones. Who ironed your pants today, like Stevie Wonder, or, there's got to be clever things.
More from Shane later. But first, 2 drug companies are seeking leave to appeal against a decision which allowed the NHS to use a cheaper drug, Avastin, for the treatment of wet, age-related macular degeneration. The companies argued that Avastin wasn't licensed for use in the eye, and that its prescription by 12 health authorities in the North East put at risk the regulations which govern the safety of drugs. But a High Court judge ruled that the NHS could cite cost as a justification for Avastin's use, and also rely on the fact that NICE, that's the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, had said it was safe and effective. Well, talking to In Touch after that decision, Hasib Ahmad, Managing Director of Novartis Pharmaceuticals UK, explained why they were contemplating an appeal.
Regulation is there for a reason. What we're seeing in this case is that potentially both hospital trusts, physicians and patients will be put under pressure to accept a medicine that hasn't been through the same regulatory standards.
Hasib Ahmad of Novartis. Well, David Hambleton is the CEO of South Tyneside Clinical Commissioning Group, one of the 12 authorities who went ahead and used the cheaper drug. How did he react to the company's decision to appeal?
Well, I think first of all, I'd say we were disappointed that both of the drug companies concerned haven't been prepared to accept the judgment, which was really comprehensive and I think for us represented a very, very clear statement of the law. So first of all, disappointment, given how clear that was.
What have been the immediate effects of the judgment about your use of Avastin? Because there have been some big claims about the difference it would make.
Yeah, I think the judgment has really clarified things for our clinicians in particular, because I think there have been deliberately, I suspect, a lot of misinformation around this area, probably going back for a decade. But now I think it's really clear that this policy is legal and we can start using Avastin legally in this area of wet age-related macular degeneration. So our clinicians are now feeling much more confident to go ahead and implement the policy and offer choice, which I think for us is great news.
So does that mean that people already who perhaps were not getting Avastin are now receiving it?
I think there are already some people who were receiving Avastin, because remember, you can use Avastin when people's visual acuity hasn't deteriorated to the level that you have to wait before you use the other 2 drugs. And I think that we're now about to see a real step change in that. So I think clinicians are now gearing up to offer that choice much more widely to people.
And are the human resources there? This is like to speed up the treatment that people get. Have you got enough people, as it were, to provide this treatment?
Well, I think it's fair to say that, firstly, of course, using Avastin doesn't require people necessarily to have more injections. It just allows you to do it potentially earlier in people's disease. So for us, that can only be good news. So we would love to have the challenge of saying, actually, there are more people for us to be able to treat and preserve even more of their eyesight. So rather than been a challenge. That's an opportunity for us to say to our retinal specialists, for example, that actually your departments need to be really ready to make sure that they're offering choice.
So if the law on this had been clearer earlier, what impact would that have had on your clinical commissioning group?
I think the impact would have been really very significant. We've calculated that it costs approximately £13 million every year in Cumbria and the North East for these treatments, and that's the type of order of savings that we could have been making every year. So for us, the size of that price is really significant, and that's why we've gone to these lengths to prove that our policy was lawful in the first place.
Novartis argued again on In Touch a couple of weeks ago that it's in no one's interest to see deregulation of the process to decide the safety of drugs. They're right about that, aren't they?
I listened to the piece which you broadcast. I have to say that's not what the law says. At the moment, what I think we've had is two drug companies who have been trying really, really hard to protect their profits. And let's face it, these judgments, the cases have not been at all to do with whether these drugs are safe and effective. NICE have very, very clearly stated that all three drugs involved are equally safe and equally good. The questions that the drug companies have hidden behind is whether the current drug licensing regime supports that. As far as we're concerned, it's should these drugs be offered as a choice for our patients in the NHS, and the law has very clearly said yes, they should.
But don't companies also need to be able to protect how their intellectual property is used? You know, the work to develop these drugs is costly. It takes time and it costs money.
Listen, I think we're all accept that the pharmaceutical industry makes a really positive contribution to the NHS, and there is a good relationship between our health services and the pharmaceutical companies. I think what we've seen, unfortunately, in this case, the drug companies have put their profits and their shareholders' interests above that of patients within the NHS. No one's denying the fact that commercial organisations should be able to make a fair profit. I think what we've seen is this is really going beyond the pale, to be quite frank, and therefore that's why we've gone to these lengths. The price difference in these drugs is astronomical.
Well, although, to be fair, the price of Lucentis in certain circumstances has gone down in recent years, hasn't it?
Oh, yes, it has. There's no doubt about that. But I guess if you still compare even those prices to the price of one vial of Avastin at £27, the NHS could save a significant amount of money.
Will you go on prescribing Avastin while this appeal is considered?
Oh, goodness, yes. I mean, the judgment is really clear. It's a clear statement of the law. The appeal process obviously hasn't even been agreed yet. So first of all, the judge needs to grant leave to appeal, and it remains to be seen whether that will be granted, given that there needs to be a reasonable prospect of success. And to be frank, we can't see that.
David Hambleton, CEO of South Tyneside Clinical Commissioning Group. And the relationship between cost and quality is also at the heart of our next story. Last week, we heard about the long-delayed arrival on the market of a much cheaper machine to produce electronic braille, the Orbit. The development of the machine was backed financially by a number of charities for visually impaired people around the world, including the RNIB. Their argument was that the commercial machines doing the job up to now have cost thousands of pounds, which made it impossible for many blind people to get their hands on them, literally. Well, Neil Jarvis has been a major player in the process. An experienced brailleist himself, until recently, Neil worked for the New Zealand equivalent of the RNIB. He'd anticipated Orbit's appeal on grounds of cost and as an education tool, but there was a third group of users he hadn't foreseen.
That was people who already had the existing kind of braille displays, but were afraid to take them out to places where they might get damaged or even they may not be safe. And so taking something like the Orbit allows them to take a device which is not something which has cost them thousands and thousands of pounds, but is something which is easily used in the outdoors and easily used in strange places.
And I think you come into that category, don't you? I don't know if you're surprised to have come into that category, but you've actually done this yourself.
Yeah, I took the Orbit to Russia for the 2018 FIFA World Cup. I'm a huge football fan, and I took the Orbit on the road for that. The nice thing was, of course, when I got back to my hotel room, it doubled up as a braille display for my computer. So when I was doing emails or for my iPhone, I actually had braille to do it as well.
You're still a member of Transforming Braille, but you're not so much fully associated with organisations. Why was there such a long delay?
When you design new technology, you're going to have teething problems. So that's why there was the delay, that we found problems, but we didn't want to send devices out onto the market that weren't ready for prime time. We've, as blind people, have become used to hearing other blind people complain rightly and bitterly that they've invested a lot of their own hard-earned money in new electronic braille devices, only for them not to perform as advertised when they've got them home. And we didn't want to be in that situation.
Just finally, the fear might be that although of course you want to get braille into the hands of as many people as possible, the fear might be that some of the sophisticated high-end uses wouldn't be possible, and that might drive the companies who are doing that out of business.
In most markets, there are budget versions, mid-priced versions and higher price version, bells and whistles if you like, of products. If you buy a car, you can buy a Mini or you can buy a Ferrari and lots of things in between. And I don't see any reason why braille or any kind of technology should be any different.
Neil Jarvis. Well, Humanware has been involved in the development of electronic braille for 30 years. So how do commercial companies like this react to the appearance of Orbit on the scene and this clear challenge to their pricing policy? Andrew Flatteries is Humanware's Braille product manager.
We have to be open-minded and make sure that customers and users are not misguiding the thought that this is the future of Braille. Don't get me wrong, manufacturers like ourselves are looking at different approaches to help reduce the costs of today's prices in Braille technology. However, the customers demands high quality and expects that same high-spec technology as everyone else is using.
So is Orbit a threat to you, would you say?
I wouldn't say a threat. It's something to, it's a good thing that they are making Braille affordable and available to those that cannot afford it. As I said, any type of technology, people have different price points and different choices. Of course, the lower cost Braille side of things, there's going to be compromises, whether it's suitable for certain segments in the market like education, etc. So to answer your question, Peter, no, I don't think it's so much a threat. I just think it's really important to know what the difference in the technology is.
But Orbit have said education is actually one of the areas that they're really aiming at, that they want to get into the schools. Are you saying it's not suitable for education?
I don't think it is. People want to achieve the high quality or high STEM, science, maths, etc. assignments on a Braille product that can achieve that kind of stuff. And I don't believe that the Orbit 20 is there at this stage. The main purpose of the Orbit is a reading machine. But has equipment not been overpriced in the past? I mean, you tell people that this sort of equipment is £2,000, £3,000, £4,000 and they kind of gasp. They're really surprised that it is that expensive. I guess that people need to be aware of the technology that's being used, the quick refresh rates, the quietness, versus what's happening now in the low-cost market. It's becoming louder, it's becoming slower. Is someone who's in the high end in the school, do they find that acceptable? So are you saying really that this a bit of competition in the market will make no difference at all to you, how you price things, how you market things? Well, I don't think, said as before, it's certainly something to be aware of, and we are looking at ways to make Braille affordable. But you've also got to take in the fact that support is one of the biggest things in the Braille market. Making sure that customers comfortable, knowing what to do, what happens if something goes wrong, the aftercare. Humanware has been around for that 30 years in this industry now. With the Orbit Reader 20 only sort of just being established, is it proven technology? That's questionable. And what's the support going to be like? Again, that is all things that we need to start thinking about that.
But Andrew, some people do say that it's the commercial companies who are very keen to talk to us and explain things to us when they're trying to sell us something quite expensive, not quite so quick on the scene when things go wrong. Given that for blind people in particular, if you don't get hands-on advice, it is really difficult to sort it yourself.
Oh, I wouldn't say it's difficult to sort it yourself. It's just knowing that who do I contact if something happens? I need someone on the other line just to speak to about the issues that I'm experiencing. Again, it's really important to make sure that the aftercare is there as well.
Andrew Flatteries of Humanware. And finally today, for years, Shane Warne upset batsmen with his mysterious spin bowling. But how come he's now been upsetting the breakfast listening habits of In Touch columnists? Red Sale explains.
Like many people, I listen to the Today programme while I crunch my cornflakes. It's a bit like sending my brain to the gym. It can be challenging, depressing, thought-provoking and informative. And sometimes I find myself shouting at the radio. But seldom do I get offended by what I hear. Then, last Tuesday, as I was getting ready to leave the house, I stopped to listen to Michelle Hussein interviewing Shane Warne. As a cricket fan, I was all ears. Michelle opened with a couple of easy deliveries, and Warne was getting into his stride when Michelle bowled him a googly.
Sledging, something that Australians are really famous for. You yourself, have had some memorable one-liners. Yeah. When Moeen Ali wrote his autobiography, he said an Australian player called him Osama. Does that go too far?
Absolutely. There's no room for racism or anything like that in sport or in the world, in the workplace, anywhere. So that's disappointing. Sledging to me, people always say, what's the greatest sledge? The best sledge is always those little clever ones. Things like, when someone comes out to bat and go, well, geez, who ironed your pants today? With Stevie Wonder, or, it was... They're little things. They're just, there's got to be clever things. I thought, I had a time with Darryl Cullinan where I read this double-page spread about him saying he'd been to a psychiatrist to say that he'd been playing the man and not the ball. Putting that in a public domain when you're about to play a test match is opening himself right up. So I sort of took the lead with that, and I remember when he came out to bat, I just sort of whispered in his ear as I was walking past him, were they hourly sessions? What colour was the couch? Now, to me, that's funny.
So let's review this using DRS, the Disgusted Red system. Shane's initial defence is good. He fends off the question with a straight bat. There is no room for racism or anything like that in sport or in the world. But his follow-through is shocking. A Stevie Wonder gag. But, according to Shane, stereotyping and deriding blind people is clever. A prime example of the art of sledging, as is mocking those with mental health issues. But when he realises he's on a sticky wicket, he tries to cover up. However, he makes no attempt to defend his Stevie Wonder jibe. So, Shane Warne, I'm calling you out. Why does this matter? Well, as a celebrity, Shane Warne is both a role model and a brand. Voted one of the top 5 cricketers of the 20th century, he remains a role model for many young players and has a high media profile. Like any other commercial brand, he has a responsibility not to display double standards, stereotype minorities, or discriminate on the grounds of difference. Deriding disability is just as wrong as stigmatising people on the grounds of race, religion or sexuality. It's not clever or funny, it's offensive and it perpetuates prejudice. Alongside casual racism and sexism, it too has no place in sport, in the world or on Radio 4. So Shane, if you're listening, show us that you're someone to admire in the 21st century and admit you've overstepped the mark.
Red Sale. Do you agree? Or is the boy just too sensitive? You can call our action line for 24 hours after the programme with your comments and queries. That's 0800 044 044. You can email in touch at bbc.co.uk or click on Contact Us on our website. From there you can also get downloads of tonight's and many previous editions of In Touch. From me, Peter Wight, producer Kevin Core and the team, goodbye.